Greetings to you this day. This is Michelle Strickland, and I'm coming to you today with my daily theology lesson. It's my meditation that I do. I record it and then I release it because maybe somebody else can get something out of it. If you're new, I meditate over the major religions. Want to see what the differences are between the different religions. But right now I'm dealing with the Buddhists, and I'm in the Shape of Suffering text. I'm finishing up the introduction, and then we'll move on from there. Okay. So I just want to take a moment of silence out for those who are suffering in conflicts all over this world. Choose love and peace, not war. Choose love and peace, not war. I just want you to find God this day. Choose God. You know, the bad guys, they sin. The good guys, we sin. We all sin. Choose God this day. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You know, just choose God. And find your hope. Find your peace. Find your love. Find your joy. Find it. You know, never give up on yourself. Never give up on yourself. Love yourself. You know, love yourself first, because if you can't find love from somebody else, you can love yourself. If you have yourself, you have everything, and you can rebuild. Never give up on yourself. Okay, so I wanted to explain to you, because I don't want to backtrack on this book and go, you know, give the explanation on what I've already dealt with. But I am gonna summarize and give you an explanation of what codependent co-arising and what it means. Um, it teaches that everything that exists is conditioned, dependent on something else. This applies to thoughts as well as objects, to individuals as well as the entire universe, okay? Right now, like I said, I'm just finishing up the introduction because I want to get an idea of what the text is dealing with. Let's see here. Give me just 1 second. Chapter 1 explores the formal reasons for why the will image used to describe dependent co-arising is independent for understanding the problem of suffering and stress. The chapter also points out the practical advantages offered by the complexity of dependent co-arising. In the complex interplay of its lines of causality means that the causal process as a whole can be unraveled by developing knowledge focused on any one of its factors. You can go online and look it up if you want to look deeper, because I don't want to go backwards. Chapter 2 explores the inadequacies of the circle of mirrors image by examining an underlying image that the Buddha himself used to describe dependent co-arising, the image of feeding. While the circle of mirrors suggests a harmlessly beautiful and static vision of dependent co-arising, the image of feeding reveals the inherent instability of dependent co-arising and desirability of putting an end to the process. A lot of times, what it was saying earlier, it seems like sometimes with, you know, people, we overthink stuff, you know, sometimes, you know, that's what it was talking about earlier in the introduction, is that sometimes when we know we have things that bother us, you know, we overthink it, you know, before it even happens. This chapter explores the themes of feeding with reference to the way this theme was viewed in classical Indian thought, and discusses the Buddha's strategic use of physical and mental feeding to lead the mind to a point where it no longer needs to feed. In other words, the causal process, as exemplified by feeding, can be converted from one that produces suffering to one that brings suffering to an end. That means the overthinking, you know, you have to go back and listen to the other. It's just like an overthinking process, you know. Sometimes we overthink stuff that hasn't even happened. It's good to plan, but sometimes we can overthink stuff, you know, and then it creates negative situations for us. Chapter 3 explores the practical aspects of points made in chapters 1 and 2. On the one hand, it shows how specific practices in the Buddhist path are meant to bring knowledge to bear on specific factors of dependent co-arising. On the other, it shows how specific factors in dependent co-arising, particularly fabrication and name and form, can be shaped into tools for use in the path to the end of suffering and stress. Once they have performed their functions as tools, these factors can be contemplated as to abandon any remaining passion for them. A lot of this, a lot of these techniques that it seems that they're talking about, you learn some of these techniques. It sounds like in psychology, like if you're in a psychology class. But I'm going to keep going. They deal with a lot of psychological issues and things of that sort. The upshot of this chapter is that a person aiming to put an end to suffering does not need to know all the ins and outs of dependent co-arising, because the practice can be completed by focusing on any one of its component factors. Once that one factor is understood, the understanding will spread to the other factors as well. Still, appreciation of the complexity of dependent co-arising helps to explain why this is so. At the same time, a knowledge of its various factors gives a sense of full range from which a focal point can be chosen, and an understanding of the practices of the Buddha recommended with regard to each focal point assists in gaining the practical benefits this knowledge is intended to give. Thus, this book, the material, is presented as a collection of readings from the discourses of Pali Canon. Now, if I'm not saying these names correctly, I'm asking you to forgive me. Our earliest record of the Buddha's teachings interlaced with discussions to bring out their most salient points. I have not attempted a complete discussion of all the relevant topics, for that would have created a book too complex to be of use. Instead, I have provided the discussions as food for further thought. Training the mind to feed itself in this way is an important step in using the teachings of dependent co-arising to attain their intended goal. And so the person that inspired this book was Thanissaro Bhikkhu. Please forgive me for not saying the name correctly. Anyway, I know it's kind of was hard to probably understand that, but I wanted to read the introduction, and if you weren't keep staying up, you can go back and kind of review, but it was just giving you an introduction of what this book is going to be discussing, okay? So anyway, I want you to remember to choose God this day. You don't have to be perfect, Just turn your life over to Him. And remember to smile this day anyway, and reach out to one person at a time, okay?